Hey, Joseph Varghese here from the New York Power Team, and welcome. I'm here with my friend Mindy Gibbins-Klein. I've known Mindy for a couple of years now, at least, and we've been in conversation before, virtually before that. Mindy's in the UK, but she's also a bi-continent person because she grew up partly in the US, and she also lives much of her time where she raised her kids in the UK. So Mindy, tell us about that before we go into the event, Power Team event and so forth. Tell us a bit that you're bi-coastal or bi-continent.
I don't know what you call it. You know what I call it, Joseph? I call it half and half.
Okay. I love it.
Because seriously, the week after I'm in New York and we do the talk, I will celebrate half my life in the UK. And I won't tell you exactly how many years, but I was born in New York. So over here, it's exciting to say I'm a native New Yorker. I usually say it, not sing it. And then I moved over here and I've had my whole career in the UK pretty much, but just recently started going back to the US, to New York every month, which is why you've seen me quite a lot more.
Got it. And can you do a New York accent? Is that part of your...
Well, I'm not really very good at it anymore.
Got it. Awesome. That's a good attempt. That's a bit better than my British attempt. I've been out there several times myself, not as frequent as you've been over here. So just so everyone knows, my name is Joseph Varghese. I'm co-leader of the New York Power Team. I've been co-leading with Frank Clark for the past 8-9 years now at this point. Been a member of his community for about 15 years. And the New York Power Team is the largest monthly person development peak performance community in New York. And we have a lot of fun. We started out of a community around the Tony Robbins world many years ago, about 25 years ago. And we've really embraced all facets of growth and learning and just being our best selves. That's what we're all about. We meet once a month, sometimes twice a month. We're aiming to meet actually more so because we have more leaders getting involved in our community. And that's what we're doing. And Mindy's actually speaking at our event, our kind of a fall event, our ultimate event on September 11th. It's a special day for many New Yorkers. And it's really fitting because her topic is on thoughtful leadership versus thought leadership. Is on thoughtful leadership, and she has a book by that same name too. We're going to ask her about that and what people, our audience, can expect at the event come Tuesday evening, and also how to actually RSVP and sign up for the event too. It's going to be a fun evening. So Mindy, tell us about thoughtful leadership, and if you want to also share about your journey as well from being a book coach to being, of course, an author, having a publishing company, involved with nonprofits. You want to share about your journey over the years that's brought you where you're at right now.
Okay, thank you for that. So I always liked writing, but I never intended to be a writer, an author, or anything. But then something happened in my life, which I'll share on Tuesday night. And I decided I absolutely had to write a book about it. So I wrote my first book. I make it sound very simple, but I agonized over it and made lots of mistakes and had lots of self-doubt and lots of rejections. And basically, the whole thing took 10 years to finally see it in print. Almost immediately, I became self-employed as the result of a redundancy. I think you call it layoff over there. And I thought, you know what? I've got this book. I've got marketing consultancy, I've got a coaching company, I can put this all together and I can work with authors and marketing books and, all that fun stuff and coaching people. And the coaching really took off because, most people, they will never even write the book they want to write. Lots of reasons, which we don't need to go into. But I soon realized that that's where I needed to play to help give people confidence, to, give them a process and help them get it done. And then obviously, if they want to publish, I run the publishing company, and I started working with executives. And the term that came up a lot was thought leadership. And I didn't really agree with the definitions. Well, there weren't really any definitions. It just seemed kind of arbitrary. And you'd go to a conference and they'd be like, oh, he's a thought leader. I started asking myself, because, I like to ask lots of questions in the Tony Robbins community. We ask lots of questions. I started thinking, well, why is that person a thought leader? And are they? And do I agree? And what are the criteria? And I like a good process. I'm a bit of a systems girl. And I decided that there really wasn't any how should we say, criteria or model or method of measuring. And so I came up with one in 2008. So 10 years now, a bit of an anniversary.
Awesome.
I presented it and it went down really, really well. Thought leadership was a buzzword, but nobody understood it. So 24 Karat Bold came out and I began talking about that. Then gradually over the past, the next 7 years, people started using the term thought leadership quite a lot. And it became overused. I don't know if you and the viewers would agree.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, time to raise the bar again, as we do as leaders. And I decided that it wasn't really about being a thought leader, although that's important to raise your profile and there's specific ways to do it. But the really, really important thing is being thoughtful, putting that extra thought into your content, into your interactions, into relationships, and again, exactly how to do it to stand out in a different way, not by shouting louder, not by doing clever gimmicky things. And that now has taken me to a new space. I feel better about it because, I'm helping people live with more integrity, and I could go on and on, but I appreciate you have more questions. But that's what's brought me to this place, and I'm so, so happy to share it on a thoughtful day like September 11th with my New Yorkers.
Yeah. And why do you feel it's so important that we embrace thoughtful leadership? And when I hear thoughtful leadership, I think about presence, like really full-on presence, really connecting, and that's what I associate with it. And I could be wrong, but why do you feel that in this day and age, in this urban jungle that many of us live in, whether they're in the UK or they're in New York, why would they value getting good at understanding that thoughtful leadership?
Yeah, well, thoughtfulness is coming back into fashion. At least I would like to think so. And I'm using the term in two different ways. So thoughtful as in being considerate, but also thoughtful, putting more thought into what you say, what you do, what you write, what you publish. Of course, that's my background. And you can do both at the same time. You can show consideration for others by putting more consideration and considering what you're putting out there, and you actually can achieve a bigger impact in that way. I think it's really important because there's so much noise out there. Like you say, it's a fast-paced, hustle-bustle world. And I'm afraid that we've lost some depth in certain areas. So people are, rushing around so much. It's the age of the tweet. How can you get some top-level message? And as I say, I'm not a big fan of gimmicks and vague messages. That I like depth, because I think that's when you get into the real value. Yeah. And that's how I play. And so I feel that my work and my mission is to help others understand some ways of tapping into that depth. It's not for everyone, because some people really think they don't have time. But for those who do care about others and care about how they come across and care about the content that they're putting out there, then we have some very, very exciting work to do together starting on Tuesday. Beautiful.
Got it. I really do resonate with that message. Particularly, this has come up recently. I went to Meetup headquarters. Meetup is actually the vehicle we use to promote our events at times. And they've been very good to us. And the founder of Meetup, Scott Heiferman, years ago, before he sold Meetup to WeWork, started after 9/11, seeing how New Yorkers connected for the first time, or what he saw for the first time. It's the level of depth we would have to acknowledge one another, because we're all something major, of course, happened. And part of my story too, as an engineer, is I left the corporate world soon at that time when I saw that happen for myself, to made a huge shift and got into more work that deals with that topic, thoughtful leadership, the organizations and even the power team community and the accountability circles I run and so forth. So I really do resonate with that message. And I do feel at this time it's so important, as we move forward to, life is it's about reaching our goals and having dreams and aspirations. And let's consider that a major path toward that is developing the level of depth and character and who you are toward, and those leadership skills toward making, things happen. There's a way of going after goals and so forth, if you have that thoughtfulness within yourself. What are your thoughts about that as far as goal achieving, people who are high achievers, and particularly in Tony Robbins' community and other peak performance communities, some very high achievers where every moment's accounted for and so forth. What are your thoughts about that, people in that community, and how can they use thoughtful leadership toward, I'd say, maybe being more effective or being more present toward reaching the goals they're after?
Right. Well, one of my first jobs when I still lived in the States was a sales trainer, and we were training salespeople. And one of the modules that we used to do was goal setting, and it was based on the Tony Robbins goal setting method, began back in 1980 something, and a long time ago. It was delightful at that time to give people a really specific step-by-step process to identify and articulate their goals and come out with some steps and something really tangible. Maybe it's because society's changed, maybe it's because I've changed, or a combination of both. But I think that's still really important. We have to have goals, we have to know where we're heading. But things have shifted a little bit, and in this relentless pursuit of goals, we can sometimes forget to smell the roses or the coffee, or whatever the metaphor is. And I like both. And
Me too.
I think having that eye towards the future, but also being very present in the present, is a really lovely balance. And as we get older, I think balance becomes more important. When we're really young and we're striving and thriving and thrusting, that's where our energy is going, towards the future, and that's the right thing. Yes. It's just that if we don't learn to stop and reflect and slow down sometimes, it could result in just a vague sense of unease, or worse, possibly burnout. Yes. People have breakdowns, and I don't get involved in that kind of work. I'm mostly helping them get clarity on their content. But I've met people who really needed to slow down or stop and get sorted out before embarking on content or anything business-like. So that's where it fits in. I think that Robbins people are phenomenally positive. It's our tribe. It's great. Yes. And there's probably a way of making sure that there's balance in our lives as well.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Making sure things are sustainable as you're going after your goals and your dreams. And there's a way of doing it, right? With full on presence, connection, and really love. I mean, it's all about everything's about love, right? Everything, at least at the core of it, is about really sharing that, at least how I look at it. Got it. So this is fantastic. So that's it. We'll go into Mindy's site, more specifics about how to get to the Power Team event as well. I also want to acknowledge we have a second speaker at the event too, who is from the Robbins community, who is about goal setting. So we're going to do a blend that evening, or Tuesday evening, of really two approaches that I believe go hand in hand. Yeah. For me personally, I wouldn't be married if I didn't have developed a presence and being able to deeply connect within myself, right, through meditation and just really learning to listen, master the art of listening to people, which is a really core skill in anything you do, as a speaker, as a writer, as a leader in any ways. And if you work in a corporate world, it's so important to be able to develop that as a skill. And I'm sure you'll go into that also on Tuesday evening. I'm sure that's a facet of what you'll be sharing about. You also wrote a book on this topic, Thoughtful Leadership.
The Thoughtful Leader.
Yeah.
A lovely bright red power cover that belies the calm message inside. I mean, it really was a backlash, and then I took out all the angry bits. No, I was a little bit angry that some people would allow themselves to be negatively affected by all the competition and the stress and the times, and angry is probably the wrong word. I just really wanted to help folks who had set off on an entrepreneurial journey or had taken a risk and then were being beaten down and were being knocked back and were having their confidence knocked. And I realized that it was actually a lot simpler than people thought. So the thoughtful leader is there to, I think I'll use your word, to complement, to be the counterpart to thought leadership and goal setting and all the other really important things that we need to move forward. But it's about taking stock and making sure that we're happy in the present and on the journey as well.
Got it. And Mindy, I know you also coach people. Do you coach entrepreneurs or maybe executives? As you mentioned that before too.
Yeah.
So do you bring this into your coaching too? And how do you integrate this form of leadership into your coaching? Because I see all of us as leaders, right? And we all have an ability within ourselves to tap into that, and it allows us to really give more, to achieve more, and to live more freely by really embracing that within ourselves. How do you integrate that into your coaching?
So the coaching that I tend to do is thought leadership strategy, thoughtful leadership strategy, or let's get a book done, which is best done under the umbrella of thought leadership, or better yet, thoughtful leadership. So the three brands work together. And I find when I'm working with an individual executive, even if they think all they want to do is crank out a book, once we peel back the layers and figure out what's driving that and where they want to go with it and what they want to be and do in the world, there's usually more to it than that. And so I'm not a big fan of, the crank it out, churn it out trend that we see. And, it's fine. I try not to make people wrong, but if I guess I attract those executives and entrepreneurs and individuals who appreciate that they can go deeper and they can create a better book, a better message, live, as I say, in integrity and achieve a lot more and have a bigger and better impact in slightly a counterintuitive way. And then we can create a whole foundation and platform and strategy for them. Some people call it branding. I would never use that word, but it's almost the basis of their message branding. That aspect of it we work on to make sure that, it really is coming from the heart as well as the head.
Got it. So it's really more foundational, essentially, kind of really being congruent all the way through. Yeah. I'm sure you impact people also as speakers too, as well. I mean, I'm sure it all connects, because when you're an author, you have to be able to, I guess, be congruent on every platform that you connect with. And as an author, you have to learn how to be a marketer too on some level. And I agree with you to branding. I think it's really foundational, right? It's really who you are as a person.
Yeah, so we look at all of the different deliverables, media platforms, all the ways in which that message might come across, and we begin with the end in mind to set that platform and that foundation up properly, so that no matter where you show up, it's consistent and congruent, and it's a really lovely way of being, as opposed to feeling like you are. It's being at cause as opposed to being at the effect of everything, and feeling like you have to respond and react to everything. So it's more in control.
That's really, really important. I mean, I'm a big believer in really building that foundation. We live in an age of information. So there's this idea years ago came called Moore's Law. I see it applied to information too, that information doubles kind of every couple of years, like the amount of information that comes toward us. And even on Tuesday evening, you have a multitude of events to go to on Tuesday evening. And the Power Team, our community, is one of those events. And my belief is that, like, if you come to our event, you'll develop some strong, solid skills toward developing that thought leadership within yourself that'll really help you really have more fulfillment in life. And I think the core of success is about fulfillment. Whether you're a speaker, you're an author, any type of leader, if you embrace that fulfillment within yourself, you'll be a lot happier, a lot more intentional in how you show up in the different endeavors you're up to. So come join us on Tuesday evening. It'd be great. 290 Fifth Avenue is the location. You can learn more about it. You go to NYPT, and NYPT.info. There's a link to our meetup site. You can sign up there. We also have an Eventbrite link as well. And Mindy, your website is MindyGK, MindyGK.com. So you can find out more about Mindy or her different programs. .com, yeah, exactly. MindyGK.com. Thank you for clarifying that. Going about her programs, her books, the authors she's impacted, her publishing program, especially this idea of thoughtful leadership. Learn more about that there, and on Amazon too, if you choose to go there too as well. Any other final comments, Mindy?
No, I'm just so delighted. I feel like I'm coming home, not just coming home to New York, but, my tribe and the fellow Power Team members. And,
Mm.
it is like a family. And I feel really welcomed when I come back to New York. It was a bit daunting to come back after so many years. And, I hadn't necessarily sustained all the bridges, so I needed to rebuild things. And, it's a really, really good community. So thank you so much for building it, sustaining it, and welcoming me into it.
Of course, yeah. The reason why I do and Frank does this is because it really does keep the expectations high so we can be even better leaders, and allows us to, it's a framework for us to really deliver value, and the Basket Brigade and all the great things, and also engage with great speakers like yourself. And we're so privileged to be able to lead and be able to learn from you directly, have your wisdom. I mean, it's great for 2 hours once a month to be able to tap into someone's wisdom, life experiences. I mean, you've gone through so much with the authors you've impacted, and your travels and your speeches. I know you did a TEDx talk too as well. I'll make sure there's a link to that on our meetup page as well. But just ability to be able to access someone for a couple hours, it's priceless. So come join us Tuesday night. I'm going to stop the recording now, and thank you, everyone.